questions we wrestle with as Christians about who God is, how do we live out our faith, what is the Bible, what is the truth of the Bible, what are we supposed to believe, how are we supposed to live? There are really big, deep questions that we ask each other, that we ask God, that we wrestle with ourselves. And that's why the Cultivate podcast exists, to help us go deeper in our understanding of who God is, His Word, and the way that He's called us to live. Everyone, welcome to the Cultivate podcast with the Grove Church. I'm Charlie Loften. I'm the lead pastor there, and we are here with not Abigail Boone.
Surprise.
Natalie Fink.
Hey.
Kids director at the Grove Church. Great friend, lover of kids,
Yes.
Great person.
Thank you.
First time ever on a podcast.
It is my first time ever.
Nice. This would be your first time also on YouTube?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Maybe. No.
Nope.
No. When I was in college, I did step show for my sorority.
Yeah, you did.
And we're on YouTube.
Okay, find that. What should we search for?
I'll tell you later.
Okay, fine. So we have finished what feels like a year's long, but it was really, I guess, about 60 maybe episodes, working our way through systematic theology, and then a great idea popped up. Did it come from you? Did it come from Abigail? Where'd it come from?
Yeah. Well, Abigail asked the staff if any of us had any ideas that would go along with this topic. And I just so happened to be reading a book called How to Teach Kids Theology. And so I said, we should talk about that. And so I think that's where it came from.
So here we are.
Talking
about teaching theology to kids.
Yes.
And so I'm going to hand it over to you because you have all the questions. And so you start with your questions and we'll talk about it and we'll see how many episodes this is. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, like I said, I was reading this book called How to Teach Kids Theology. It's by Sam Luce and Hunter Williams. And yeah, when Abigail asked, I just thought this would be a really great topic to go along with the systematic theology umbrella. Just great for parents and for, have you heard the term kidmin before? Or is that new to you?
Is that short for like kids ministry?
Yeah.
Kidmin. Oh,
Yeah, something I've learned.
Feel pretty intuitive, but I don't know.
Right.
I don't know if I've heard it
I said
before.
that to someone once and they were like, what are you saying? So anyway.
I'm a little more in church world, so
right. But yeah, so I thought it would be great for Kidmin volunteers too to hear some of these things. But anyway, I just don't want people to feel like it's this daunting thing. We have to teach all of these theological truths to our kids and to the kids that are in our care at church. And so I wanted to make it feel a little bit more doable, but at the same time, I don't want parents to think, well, I bring my kids to church every week. They've got it covered there because really it's just an hour a week. And so that's my heart behind this. But I thought to start, we could talk about why it's important and what we should be teaching. And so my first question for you is, why is it important to explicitly teach theological truths to our kids?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we do as a church, and I mean capital C church, we do really well is teach the Bible. Like we'll walk our way through this book. This is what this book says, or individual passages we'll take them and teach this passage. But what systematic theology does is help us understand categories. What does the Bible say about this? You know, what can I learn about God? What can I learn about Jesus? And I think understanding kind of the big picture of kind of the major categories of the things that the Bible teaches on these really just kind of important areas about people and sin and God and the Holy Spirit and all these different things can really, to me, that is, I mean, that really is kind of really just kind of a comprehensive Bible knowledge. It's like, I understand what the Bible teaches. Too often we can teach what passages say, and then we get so focused on the application. And this means kids don't lie to your teacher,
right?
Which is good. And we do the same thing in in I was about to say big church.
Big church? I knew you were going to say
Big church? Big church? I mean, is that what do y'all say?
Hey, we can say big church if we're talking about kids ministry.
What do y'all say? The kid men in big church? I mean, what do y'all call what happens in the auditorium in kid men?
I think it's big church.
Yeah, okay. So in big church we do the same thing, work our way through the passages like, so, don't cheat at work, honor God at work. And we get so quickly to just kind of knowledge in general and then specific applications that we don't have a really good, strong sense of what the categories are, which is why we spent over a year doing it on the podcast. And I think those same ideas apply to kids too.
Right. Something else that was in this book that I don't think about often is just like having this Christian worldview.
Mm-hmm.
And it was saying that so many people who are even leaders in churches really, if you were to survey them, they don't have a Christian worldview.
Mm.
And so, I don't know, I guess just like, yes, we don't want to focus on just the application, but how do we kind of shape that? Or even for us, how do we figure out how to kind of look at everything through a biblical lens and then teach that to our kids?
Yeah, so I think one of the, even as you were talking, I was sitting here thinking about just one of the big challenges for me is sentences that start with, I saw a YouTube video the other day. Hey, I saw this thing on Facebook. I saw this thing on TikTok. And it is these 2 to 3 minute snippets of some sort of theological idea done by a really persuasive teacher of some sort who has a really good communicator. Very often they're always sitting or standing in front of a wall of books. And they usually have a really good demeanor about them, which is why the thing went viral in the first place. And the sentence starts with, I saw this video, and it ends with, what do you think about this? And it's not that everybody, that's what I'm here for, right? I am the ultimate kind of guardian of sound theology, but I think it would be really good if we knew how to just kind of, how to process that, of just like, that sounds nice, but is it built on truth? Is it accurate? Not everything that sounds nice is accurate, and not everything that is uncomfortable is inaccurate. And so we need to be able to learn to what a seminary professor used to call think theologically. That, that sounds really sweet, but is God really like that? And these are the questions we need to ask. Is that, I would want to believe that, but is that truly what sin is? Is that really what happens in the afterlife? Or is that just somebody, they took 10% of the verses on that topic and just kind of ignored 90, distorted the 10, and put it out here, because it'll always start with a verse. Here's a verse your pastor probably doesn't want you to know about, and they pick some random verse out of context and then interpret it wrong, and ignore the comprehensive teaching of Scripture on the topic. And so I think if we just understood at least kind of the big idea of the 10 main categories, then I think it would be really helpful then for us to be able to be on guard against, not all of it is dangerous false teaching. Some of it is just mediocre bad teaching. Just to be able to be on guard against it.
Right. So then if Layla came to you and said, I saw this thing, Dad.
Oh, yes. Not if. When. This is the older two girls more than anything now, but yeah, the Layla as well. And so we just kind of, I'll just kind of break it down of like, okay, here's what the Bible says. This is where this idea comes from. And it's usually got just a little nugget of truth in it. So here's the nugget of truth. It is true that God is loving, but that is not the only thing that God is. The Bible also says this. And so it's important for us to kind of have a big picture, because again, it is very often, it's pretty rare that any of these videos say things like, and by the way, the sky is yellow. right? I mean,
Right.
and it's like, and actually, they don't want you to know this, but you have 3 feet.
Right. They want it to sound believable.
And it usually is. It
Yeah.
is a core nugget of truth distorted. And so, hey, I understand why this is appealing and this is the truth, but here's the layers that they put on it. And so, again, you just kind of help them. It's not just teaching them, no, that's wrong, this is right.
Right.
But how to peel back the layers. What is the core truth? What are the things they've added to it? And what are the other truths that are being ignored? And more times than not, that's the danger of fault/mediocre teaching. It's not that the thing that they're saying is wrong per se, as much as it is woefully incomplete.
Right.
And so then if we understand the big picture about the nature of God, the nature of Jesus, the nature of sin, those sorts of things, then we will have what you can call this like a theological radar. That doesn't,
something's off.
Something's off.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm not equipped enough to know exactly what it is, but I've got enough kind of basis to know that doesn't quite sound right. And then go to a teacher, go to a parent and be like, hey, can you help me understand this a little bit better?
Okay.
So just learning how to process teaching, because I think we just kind of get into the point. If the person has a platform,
yeah, they can say whatever they want,
and they must. I mean, we're accustomed to okay, well, they gave you a mic and you're on the stage. I mean, I should listen to you. And again,
right? There's got to be some kind of credibility,
right?
Is how it seems. I would think. Okay. Okay. So when we're thinking about where to start, what would you say are some essential truths about God that we must instill in our kids? And I know throughout the podcast series, you've broken that down a lot. But if we're thinking like, I don't know if you want to do top 3 or 3 tiers or whatever makes sense to you.
As I was anticipating the questions that you would ask, this was one of the ones I knew was coming. So I was prepared for this. And so one of the things Abigail and I did talk about, and I've talked about for a long time, is kind of building your theological house, which I think is maybe even a really good way to kind of start with a kid to kind of think about it as like you're building a house and your house represents what you believe. And the first thing that we have to decide is where I want to put my house. And we want to put we are putting our house in the Christian, you say Christian neighborhood, it almost sounds like Christian nationalism, which is not what I'm going for here, right? But the Christian earth, right? So like where am I putting my house? So it's like, and it is those truths that when you believe them, you are a Christian. And if you don't believe them, you're not a Christian. This is not everything that's important, but it is what distinguishes Christians from Muslims, Buddhists, Mormons, agnostics, right? What is the essentials? And more than other people, I feel like I've really have pared that down to, there are plenty of things that are foundational once you're building your house that are they almost feel essential, but you can become a Christian and not believe those things yet. But in order to be a Christian, these are the things you need to believe. And I have now fully delegated this to you. So it's been a little while since I've done it, when I've sat down with a kid and talked to them about whether or not they want to get baptized. I'll ask them what they think this phrase means that they hear all the time at church. Jesus died for my sins. Jesus died for my sins.
Yes.
We say it all the time and you hear it so much. I understand that you believe it, but what does it mean? And it's a really awkward conversation which is why I pass it off to you, because
thank you.
It's less awkward with you than it would be with me. And one of my favorite things is when I ask the question, the kid kind of gets wide-eyed, is to look at the parent, because I think they're afraid that if the kid doesn't answer, then I'm going to ask them next.
Yes.
But all that to say, that phrase, Jesus died for my sins, I would start, that is what is in that dirt, those essential truths. And even though it is Jesus died for my sins, five words, it encompasses at least three, really, of the really four of the significant categories we talked about. In order for me to understand that, I need to understand who Jesus is. I need to understand what his death has to do with it. I need to understand what sin is, which then that touches both the anthropology, what are people. It also touches on who God is, but really in the main, it's like, who is Jesus? What is sin? And what does his death have to do? And so those would be that is absolutely where I would start.
Okay.
And I think those can be explained in a relatively simple way. And I think I would start there. I would start with the simplest truths about those ideas. Like, what are the basic building blocks? And so, and then work from there. And so if you say give it to three, that would be my three all packed up into one. And then I would pretty soon from that kind of move to making sure we really understand what we believe about the Bible, because a lot of this we're going to be talking about, all this comes from the Bible. It's important for us to talk about why we believe the Bible is God's word. I think that's really important. And then from there, I think the last thing that I would put on this kind of this close to essential thing is like really just about the nature of God. Less Trinitarianism, even though, I mean, eventually you eventually have to get to that, but more just maybe in some of the, for lack of a better word, just kind of these complementary that almost feel like contradictory kind of aspects of what God is like, that God is love, but God is also holy. He's really, really big, but he's also really, really close. So putting some of those things together, like what is God really like, to kind of move beyond old man with a beard in the cloud,
right?
Or, a really, angry God with a lightning bolt.
Yes.
Or just whatever, to just kind of think, just to be able to just kind of put together some basic truths about the nature of God. Some of that'll come up in your Jesus died for sins, but building on that with why do we believe the Bible is God's word, and what is God really like? And again, probably in the more practical sense of, again, love and judgment, grace and wrath, and then bigness, yet desiring to be in relationship with us.
Okay. Now I know that the way that you explained it was almost like the sequential order of start here and then go towards this. But would you say the same thing for, like, I've got a 5-year-old. Do I start there with my 5-year-old, or do I wait and do I start there with my 10-year-old? Or do you think age matters, I guess, is the question. And if it does, should we start at a different place with different
you're married to a teacher.
I am married to a teacher.
And he is a math teacher.
Yes.
Right? Mostly calculus, right? Or is it exclusively calculus?
Exclusively calculus this year.
Okay, so if he were going to teach math to your two kids, there is a sequential nature to math. He would not start with either of your kids with differential equations.
No, he would want to, but
he would want to, because he is so excited about the depth of what he knows over here.
For sure.
And so I would say no matter who you started with, no matter what age they are, you would start with the same sort of thing, which is Jesus died for my sins. How deeply I can explain what that means depends on how old they are. Right. But again, math as an example, you never have to. I don't have to worry about addition anymore.
That's right.
Right. We just continue to build on that. And there's also subtraction, and there's also division, there's also multiplication, and then it just expands and it builds on each other. And so each one of these things, you start with these basic core truths, but as they're getting older, it's not like you're moving on to different things. You're building around it. And so no matter how old they are, I would start with, who is Jesus? What is sin? And what does his death mean for me? And again, the metaphors and the illustrations that you can use and the complexity of the concepts depends on how old they are, but it is still those basic truths. And in fact, this is coming from somebody who just did 60 episodes of this. Really, those are always the big things. If you said, okay, I've got one shot to talk to a 45-year-old about theology.
That's it.
That is where I would start, but I would be able to go deeper eventually. But in an hour, I would just, if I've only got an hour, what does Jesus died for my sins mean? That is the core. My ability to explain it, might be easier depending on how old they are, but that's still That's still the core of it.
Start with the foundation.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So as I was reading this book, it was talking about encouraging our kids to ask questions and anticipate what questions they might ask about faith and theology. And so do you think it's important to do that? And if so, what are some common questions we need to be prepared to answer?
One of I think, again, capital C Church's great failings over the years, at least in the 50-ish years that I've been alive, has been in the discouraging of questions. But that's really how you learn, is by asking questions. And
absolutely.
Well, but why this though? Why this, not this? What does that mean? Like to be able to take a really good, honest question and give a really good, honest answer, and to never be threatened by it. I think that is of great importance. I think some of the biggest questions that kids will ask will be once their understanding kind of moves. At first you only, a kid can only think about themselves, and they start to think about their family and then their friends. And then eventually you kind of start to think there are people out there in the world who don't think this. And really a lot of questions will be around that. Hey, I've got a friend. It'll start with, they go to a different church. I have a friend that's Methodist. What does that mean? I've got and then, I've got a friend that is a Muslim. I've got a friend that doesn't go to church. What about them? And a lot of the questions will revolve around, what are the implications of these things that we believe for the people who don't believe them?
Okay.
And so that it can be difficult that sometimes the first questions that a kid asks are probably the one that can make people the most uncomfortable, right? Because
right. Yes.
But to be able to help them understand their faith in a multicultural, multi-faith context is really important.
We want to tell them the truth without.
We're not trying to send our kid to school the next day going, I talked to my mom about what you believe the other day, and she told me that you're,
no.
Which has actually happened to our family before from people from, say, more of a Church of Christ background who believe that they're the only ones going. You don't go to a Church of Christ church. This was I'm like 8. And so I asked my teacher about it, and they say that you and your whole family are going to hell.
Oh my!
You want to try to avoid that if you can, because again, it's just not you don't want to hide truth, but you also want to make sure that you're sending your kids that they have the understanding, but they also have the social restraint.
Right. We're not trying to rock the boat too much at school or in our neighborhood. And
I think, then you're also just going to get really what would sound like overly simplistic questions about the nature of God. It's like, well, who made God? Which is actually a deeply profound question.
Yeah.
You can dismiss it as no one made God.
Right. But
like,
what does that mean?
Like really like you're going to get a lot of questions about eternity in either direction. How is it that God is always this way, and what does it mean to to live forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I found this with my kids, that I think we were watching some history documentary, and they started talking about some of the names from the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to sound bad. I mean, my older girls, this is 20 plus years ago, but I was still a pastor, and they were like, "You mean those are real people?" I was like, "What do you mean? Of course they're real people." It's like, no. I know that they're real, and they're real in kind of in the Bible world. But those people really actually lived in our world. It's not that they thought it was fantasy.
Right.
It was like it was so far removed that all of these things happened over here, and they have implications for us over here.
Yes.
But it wasn't like you could get in a plane and go to Israel and be like, this is where
Bible
those
land.
things happened.
Yeah.
It was just a really, really long time ago. And some of that just, kids don't have a concept of 4,000 years ago.
They're not making that connection.
But I think that there are some, I think it might just be a good thing to kind of make the connection with, of like, and these are not just, these are real stories that really happened, and I can show you on a globe. And I think that was just something I had never even crossed my mind to think that.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I always try not to say Bible characters, and this is just a personal preference for me, because I feel like a character is a fictional thing, which I know isn't necessarily true, but in my mind, when I think of character, I think of Harry Potter or something,
right.
And so I don't know what the best alternative to that is, but yeah, I don't know. I worry that if I say Bible character, then they're going to take it as our Bible person in Bible land.
Yeah, like we're reading from this book, and I read stories from books all the time, and they're important stories. But I don't think there's a guy with a purple crayon who can draw whatever he wants, right?
Right.
But it's still important. It's still important, and maybe even in some way real. And so I think you would again. Probably most people listen to this would be like, "Well, that's intuitive."
Right.
Not necessarily.
Yeah. So then I guess for me, that brings up the idea of teaching theology as stories, which in the book, and I keep referencing the book, but it's very fresh. They were talking about just how that's a really good way to teach. But then for me, I'm thinking, I guess, what's a good way to teach in a way that's a story without making it seem like fiction?
You mean like taking a story of Jesus from the Bible and teaching it, or like making up a completely different?
Yes, a story from the Bible. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing. I mean, I was even thinking about that as we were sitting here talking. Most KidMin lessons are stories,
right?
And I joke about this from stage sometime, that there seem to be approximately 52 stories in the Bible, and we just do them. We just do them every year. That it might be really good to be like you're walking your way through the story, and then stop and just kind of and almost like have a moment of here's some truths about God, sin, like whatever that we learn from this. So here's what we learn from the story of the prodigal son. That God is deeply loving. We learn that sin has consequences. And that it'd be important to kind of through those stories, because not every story teaches every theological truth, but they're really all good ones will teach.
Should teach a lot of theological
truths, and to kind of make it more explicit, like on your way to the moral principle that you're trying to teach the kid, to say, hey, and here are some things that we learn here. We see here that Jesus had the power to do miracles. And this is one of the reasons why we believe that Jesus is fully God. Jesus was taking a nap. He fell asleep on the boat. So that shows that Jesus was fully human, but he also, with his words, stopped the storm.
Right.
And so we also learn that Jesus has the power of God. And you can see this in the way the disciples reacted to it, that this was more than they expected, even though they had a very high view of Jesus. who is this that can stop a storm? But he was also so sleepy that even though he was getting drenched in a storm, he didn't wake up.
Right.
That's real tired. That's really, really tired.
Right.
And so that shows that he's not just God pretending to be a person. He really needed sleep. And so we learn. So to pull the truths out of it. You know, there's some truths like, you know, Jesus died for my sins. I mean, you're talking about Jesus' death. If you're just going to do it through stories, then there's going to be some significant ones that really probably only come up at Easter.
Right.
but that's okay too.
Okay. So my last question, what are some topics or some things that we should avoid so that we don't unintentionally teach bad theology?
Wow. That is a really, really good question. I definitely would not teach kids anything you don't know.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? Your uncertainty is only going to multiply as you teach it. If I don't really know how the Holy Spirit works, don't explain it. I mean, don't say something that you don't know.
Yeah.
And I would really avoid some of the simplistic metaphors that people use around some of the deeper, more complicated truths. Well, and God is a Trinity, and it's like water. And sometimes water is water. Sometimes when it's cold, it's ice, and sometimes it's steam. And that's kind of how God is. One, that's not what it means.
Right.
Two, you don't even know what your illustration means when you say it, and your kid is even more confused.
Sure. If you can't answer the question.
I mean, I would stick with what you know and what you feel confident in communicating.
Okay.
If like, and to be willing to say, yeah, God, there's one God, but there's three persons. It's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And the kid goes, what does that mean? And it's like, honestly, I'm not really sure. It's really, really hard to understand, but I want us to keep reading and talking about it. And I'm going to try to find out more, and I'm going to try to explain it to you more, and to be comfortable with, I'm still learning some of this too. Yeah.
It's hard for some parents to say, you know,
I don't really understand.
Yeah.
How when Luke 2:52 says that Jesus grew in favor with God, what does that mean? I thought he was God,
right?
And he had a perfect relationship with God. How does that work? And I have an answer to that question. But if you don't have an answer to that question, be like, that's a really good question. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, let's find the answer.
Let's find the answer together. And to not feel like that if you're going to teach, you have to have all the answers to all the questions.
Okay.
Stick with what you know, avoid simplistic metaphors, and encourage your kid by admitting the fact that you don't know, because what it shows is that there's a depth and a richness here that even an adult is still learning and growing in. And you're encouraging a really good question, because because there's the way theology works. So every question you answer, you're going to end up asking two more.
Right.
And then you're going to answer those, and it's a little bit like a hydra, and you're going to answer those, and then you're going to have more. And so the fact that you're teaching them something, and they ask a question, and the implication of that ripples out to questions, that's how it works. And so feel comfortable with that. And if your kids are asking deep questions that you don't know the answer to, congratulations, you've got a really sharp kid.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah, and just be comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Because especially sometimes it can work this way, where the less curious parent is the one that's doing the teaching. And when you're talking to your most curious kid, you can feel overwhelmed, or you can feel dumb, but you don't want to then discourage that kid. Well, you're just supposed to just believe.
Right. Or say something wrong.
Or because you might feel that you might just have what I call a very simple faith and trust. And I'm not really asking deep questions. You should be careful with your deep question asking kid that you're not trying to put your simple approach to theology onto them. Yeah. Because that can be really, really frustrating.
Sure. You don't want to hinder that. Yeah.
I grew up being taught to think really simply and that questions were looked down upon.
Like not your place.
Not,
You're a kid.
No. This is just what it says.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. That's exactly what it says. And then the way you said it doesn't make sense because if what you said, if you say this and you also say this, then it must also mean this. But I know you don't believe this. And like, shut up, I'm the teacher, right? I mean,
and that's frustrating.
Don't do. And there's subtle ways that we can do that. And maybe we can talk about this some more. But that's just kind of, just really foster the curiosity when it's built on a truth. Okay, I now fully understand this, but now I've got all these questions.
Yeah,
that's really, really, that's good. That's how it's supposed to work. But we stay, until we've got the core truth, and now we can then start exploring these questions and make sure okay, that's a great question. But do you understand? Yeah. But what about this, and this? Great, and then encourage curiosity, but don't feel like that means you have to teach beyond your current level of understanding.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Cool. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. This is going to be great. I'm looking forward to continuing these conversations, and thank you for joining us as we're talking about teaching theology to our kids, and encourage you to come back next time. And if you're not a part of the church, encourage you to come to the grovechurch.org. Go to our Connect page and you can learn about who we are, what we do. We would love to see you on a Sunday. We'd love to answer any questions you have. Join us on Sunday. You can join us online. Either way, we're really glad you're here. Natalie, thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Cultivate podcast. Our hope is that you are taking steps to go deeper in your faith, that you are asking big questions and you're looking for answers. We hope that we can be a resource for you through our podcast and any other way that we can help you. You can find all our episodes anywhere that you can find podcasts, including YouTube. And again, thank you so much for joining us.